Are the Grizzlies for real after rolling the Golden State Warriors? Karl-Anthony Towns showed out against his former team, and the Denver Nuggets were stunned at the end. There's 13 games in the association. We're going to recap them all in tonight's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. Let's go.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Welcome to another edition of Locked On NBA Game Night. Every game, every night. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. On Fridays, I'm your co-host, Jake Madison, at NOLA Jake on Twitter, and host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. He is Swipa. How you doing, man, after the Nuggets getting stunned at the end there?
Yeah, it's been a very interesting day in the NBA. Just a lot of great games happened tonight. What a great ending to that Portland-Denver game. I mean, just shot making back and forth again.
Yeah, it was just, I don't know, this was fun to be able to kind of keep up with everything. So we're going to recap it all for you in under 30 minutes here. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. So let's just dive into these games here, and we're going to start with the Memphis Grizzlies just whipping the Golden State Warriors 144-93. Let's hear what the Locked On Grizzlies have to say about this one.
If you haven't been taking the Memphis Grizzlies seriously as an NBA Finals contender in the Western Conference, it might be time to start because they just beat the Golden State Warriors by 50-plus points. I'm Joe Mullinax of Locked On Grizzlies, and no, the Warriors are not the same that they used to be. That's important to point out. This is not the Golden State of old. They have issues, but the Warriors are a team that are actively trying to make a push in the playoff picture out west, and the Grizzlies completely demolished that hope, at least for one night. And it wasn't the usual suspects. John Morant gets injured, goes out of the game, should be okay, was smiling on the bench at the end, but it wasn't because of Ja. It wasn't Jaren Jackson Jr. as he continues an all-star campaign, or even a resurgent Desmond Bane. It was guys like Santi Aldama, Jake LaVine, Luke Kennard, Zach Edey building his Memphis legend, standing up to Draymond Green. These Grizzlies are for real, folks. It's time to pay attention.
Yeah, that was just an eye-opening thing here. Steph Curry had an awful game in this one, not even making a field goal in this, finishing with just 2 points. The plus-minus for this one is kind of wild. Swipa, let me ask you this. With John, I normally do real or fake here, so let's play it with you really quickly. Real or fake, Memphis is like a true title contender.
I'm still fake, but it's not because they're fake. You winning a title in this league is very much, and again, it's a new league. In this league, it's more of a math problem than it used to be. And so obviously it's the three-point shooting. But typically you still have to have a top-end, high-end superstar that's an elite shot maker. Like you need those things to close out game. Now the Celtics, they don't have your traditional like MVP, your Giannis, your York, LeBron, like Steph Curry, but your Tatum is still like right there, but they have a host of shot makers on the team in the scheme that allows that. I think the thing the Grizzlies I would have in the concern in the playoffs is, getting them in the half court in the playoff setting, will they be able to convert enough buckets in order to win a lot of those games 4 times versus these elite teams? I don't know if they can do that yet, but they are absolutely an elite regular season team.
Yeah, I think they're like on the cusp of being there. A lot of the metrics look really good for him. John Morant can take you pretty far, but the shot making point where teams are trying to sell out to take away the rim more, the 3-point line more, can you get some of those buckets? I think that's a really great point with them. But go check out Locked On Grizzlies for more on them, because that was a bit of an eye-opening win, I thought, when it came to that one. So let's move it along to the Indiana Pacers downing the Phoenix Suns here. Let's kick it over to the Locked On Pacers podcast.
3 in a row? The Pacers? That's right. That's their 4th win in 5 games. They're playing a little better, and they just beat the Suns on the road. One of their best wins on paper of the season, 121-11, as the Pacers get it done. Honestly, the takeaway, they're just kind of playing better, rounding into form, meaningful for the Pacers. Pascal Siakam was the dominant force if you had to look at one player. 25 points, obviously excellent. 18 rebounds, second best number of his career. Highest he's ever had for the Pacers. He was the difference maker, but for some reason, in the last 4 or 5 Pacers games, the ball's been moving with more purpose. Their defense has been better. They've been forcing turnovers. They look more like last year's team. Amazingly, last year they were 14-14. This year, 13-15. Despite this year feeling much worse, it's only 1 game fewer in the win column. They're playing better. They're getting healthier. They got Ben Shepherd and injured Nembhard back. Maybe, just maybe, the Pacers can make a run. They've got 2 huge games coming up on a back-to-back before Christmas, and a lot more on Locked On Pacers.
They've been kind of disappointing. It feels like maybe at one point I was feeling they maybe need to kind of just do like a shake-up trade or something like that. What are your thoughts on the Pacers after this one?
Yeah, I'm very surprised how they started this year off. I really thought after they made the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe they don't do that again, but they would at least be like a solidified playoff team. They just have been very inconsistent this year. But again, they played versus the Suns team that's also been very inconsistent this year. Not with Kevin Durant in the roster. I mean, this is their 3rd loss, I believe, this year with Kevin Durant in it. But they've been good, as of late. I think Tyrese Halliburton is kind of finding his way a little bit. Not a spectacular game today, 13 and 12 assists. But I think with Pascal Siakam, with Benny being healthy this year, with Nembhard back in the lineup, I mean, they really should be like a legitimate playoff team. So I'm glad to see they're kind of coming into form, and hopefully they make some noise in the Eastern Conference this year.
Yeah, worth noting in this one that Devin Booker, as they get everybody back in this game, their big 3, and then Bradley Beal made his return, and then Devin Booker leaves and has a groin injury. He's dealt with those in the past too. Something to keep an eye on with the Phoenix Suns going forward, because if they feel like they need to do something, there's a reason we're hearing them linked to Jimmy Butler and all of that, I think. And part of it is just they can't get these 3 guys out there on the court at the same time for an extended period at the very least.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, moving on as we fly through everything here in today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. We have the Atlanta Hawks losing to the San Antonio Spurs 133-126. Victor Wembanyama, 42 points in this one, throwing an alley-oop, kind of, not really, off the backboard to himself, then throwing it down. Anything else need to be said about him?
He's incredible. He's already an all-NBA player. He's at least a top 15 player this year at the minimum. And, this is just the beginning. So shout out to the Hawks. Shout out to DeAndre Hunter for that dunk that he had on him. But, man, I think he's solidifying himself in the league in year 2.
DeAndre Hunter had that to basically tie it and send it to overtime, which was a pretty cool way to do it. Brad Rowland of Locked On Hawks said this one was really an offensive loss for the Hawks, not the 3-point shooting for the San Antonio Spurs. That was more of an outlier, but 23 turnovers for the Hawks really doomed them in this one. And then we've got one more game this segment here. We got both hosts for it. OKC downing the Orlando Magic 105-99. Let's kick it over to Locked On Thunder.
OKC Thunder get a big win over the Orlando Magic, bouncing back from their NBA Cup title loss to the Milwaukee Bucks. You saw the Thunder in this game get out to a 23-point lead. They looked in control until they let the foot off the gas in the third quarter, letting the door open for the Magic to take a massive run and cut it to just 3. The Thunder have to find a way to keep their foot on the pedal for the full 48 minutes, but ultimately they got the car back on the road, got a big win in the fourth quarter behind SGA's truly MVP-level game, 35 points from him, a handful of steals and blocks and just ridiculousness on the defensive end. But offensively, the first half, he had 24 points on 10 for 11 shooting. He got to his spots at will. He dictated the terms and conditions of this game. He showed you why he's the MVP of this league with his mid-range jumper and ability to get to the rim past pesky defenders. The Thunder get a win, and now they have to face Miami on the second night of a back-to-back.
Let's get the Orlando Magic perspective here, too, as well in this one.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic here at the Kia Center as the Orlando Magic fall to the Oklahoma City Thunder 105-99. And we got to give all due respect to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They are one of the best teams in the league for a reason, one of the best defenses in the league for a reason, and the team that forces the most turnovers in the league for a reason. So give all due credit to the opponent, but the Orlando Magic lost this game. They committed far too many mistakes, far too many turnovers, far too many of them in one stretch, giving up more than 20 points off turnovers and committing more than 20 turnovers. Just not a recipe for success against elite teams. And while the Magic are down a lot of bodies right now, Jalen Suggs even got hurt late in the second quarter, and that was a huge emotional pull for this Magic team when they really let go of the lead and allowed Oklahoma City to take a nearly 20-point lead at halftime. The Magic cannot make these mistakes. Their margin for error right now is just far too small, and they're going to give games away if they make the level of mistakes that they're making. There's still a lot of things to improve. They still gave themselves a chance to win, falling by 6, but Orlando has a lot of work to grow.
You know, look, when you're that injured, I don't know if you're giving games away versus just being injured and losing games, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to be perfect in your decision making when you're depth of talent. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is that like they just can't go on these runs where their offense falls completely apart because you don't have the offensive firepower that you already lack in, but the ones that you need, they're not there to be able to supplement when you're kind of going through these dry spells.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to look at it here. All right, coming up next, Karl-Anthony Towns makes his return to Minnesota and shows out. We're going to break it all down here next on Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best place to play get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win 1,000 times your cash. So run your game all season long on Prize Packs, America's #1 daily fantasy sports app. So make your holidays brighter and bigger with Prize Picks, the best place to get real money action while watching your favorite sports. You can now win up to 1,000 times your money on Prize Picks. And Prize Picks now offers MasterCard for quick and easy deposits into your account this sports season. So join now, because this holiday season, Prize Picks is giving away 2 free picks in December, and they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas. So if you think Steph Curry is going to get more than 5 3-pointers next game, or Giannis going for more than 35 points, you can get in on the action, cook up hot takes with your friends, and win real money this basketball season when you and your crew run your game on Prize Picks. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the app, use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is also brought to you by Rocket RX. If you're ready to boost your confidence and take control in the bedroom, Rocket RX has the solution. Imagine feeling more prepared and performing at your best. Rocket RX makes it simple and stress-free. Rocket RX offers FDA-approved treatments for erectile dysfunction at a lower cost than branded alternatives. So no more uncomfortable doctor visits or pharmacy trips. Everything is delivered straight to your door in discreet, plain packaging. With Rocket RX, you'll get trusted care from a real U.S. clinical team. Complete a quick 100% online consultation, and you get your free prescription today. Visit rocketrx.com to get started now. It only takes 2 minutes. And right now, our listeners can get 40% off your first order when you use code LOCKEDONNBA. That's rocketrx.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for 40% off your first order. Terms and conditions apply. Rocket RX, better sex made simple. And thank you for making it Locked On NBA Game Night your first listen today and every day. We're here not just Monday through Friday, but 7 days a week, covering everything you want to know about the association, recapping all of the games. Go check out Locked On Nuggets as your second listen, or Locked On Pelicans. More likely Locked On Nuggets, given how the Pelicans season is going here. All right, Swipa, let's get into the New York Knicks dominating Minnesota 133-107. Let's kick it over to Ben Beacon of Locked On Wolves here. Then we are going to get into Karl-Anthony Towns, who looked awesome in this one.
The Minnesota Timberwolves were blown out by Karl-Anthony Towns and the New York Knicks in Cat's return to Target Center, a 26-point loss that really was a lot worse than the final score. I'm Ben Beacon, host of the Locked On Wolves podcast, and this game turned from a competitive, fun first quarter after an emotional tribute to Karl-Anthony Towns being welcomed with the standing ovation as was expected. And then after a great first quarter, things fell apart. The Wolves gave up 41 points to the Knicks and only scored 18 themselves in the second quarter. Cat, recovered from a couple early turnovers, a little bit of a rocky start, to absolutely dominate. 32 points, 20 rebounds, 6 assists for Cat, 10 of 12 shooting, a perfect 5 of 5 outside the arc. Julius Randle had 24 for the Wolves. A lot of it was early. He also had 5 turnovers. Took Anthony Edwards 16 shots to get 17 points. The bigger issue, though, was the Timberwolves defense just got eaten alive by Cat. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Wolves for all things Timberwolves.
That was about as good of a return game as you could possibly have. Towns with 32 points, 20 rebounds, 6 assists. He looked awesome in this game.
Yeah, I think it's funny, and I want to note, I understand it's because of the money. I still think it's objectively funny that Karl-Anthony Towns gets traded out of Minnesota and he becomes a second-team All-NBA player right after that. And do you know how hard it is, y'all, to score 32 points on 12 shots? Like, that is outrageous.
Just insane efficiency, right?
10 of 12, 5 of 5, and 7 of 12, 9. Like, I'm telling you, man, like, Carl and OG Anunoby and Jalen Brunson, they're going to cause havoc in the Eastern Conference playoffs this year.
They had looked disappointing a little bit, I thought, earlier on in the season, and they've started to like really find their way a little bit and kind of get everybody together. And like, this is the type of performance. Look, there was a lot of talk after that trade that like maybe Minnesota won the trade here and they got rid of Karl-Anthony Towns. Let's do another real or fake really quickly here. Real or fake? The Knicks officially have won that trade after this game.
Yes, short-term player title hopes. No, long-term Minnesota Timberwolves has more flexibility in the future. So they did it for financial reasons.
Yeah.
So they're getting what they want long-term. But if you're saying Julius Randle swap for Cat, that's an L.
Yes. Let's have this. Look, Randle came out hot too and played really well and then really cooled off as that Knicks team kind of buckled down on everything with it. So let's go to your game. I'm going a little out of order from what we had talked about here, but the Portland Trailblazers beating the Denver Nuggets here. Anthony Simons with the game winner right at the end. What happened in this game, man?
They didn't come out with any effort. They got down 17 points in the third quarter. Russ, Murray, DeAndre Jordan, Peyton Watson, they got them back into the game, got it to a 3-point game. Malone let it ride a little bit longer. It was a 9-point game. Joker comes back, and then they fought back. Jamal Murray hit a crazy tween step back 3 over Ayton, but then Anthony Simons, Russ just leaves the door too open to the right. AG doesn't crash and contain down on the wing at all. And Jokic, feel like he could have rotated over more in that situation to try to contest the shot. I know he was worried about the lob. Ultimately, all 3 of them failed on the defensive infrastructure in that play, and led to a make for Anthony Simons, and the Nuggets fall to 14-11 to a team. I think they had lost 3 straight games leading in that, maybe more, but they're not a good team. And the Nuggets have now lost to the Wizards and the Blazers twice. They lost to both of them in the last week and a half, 2 weeks. And so, look, I think that serious changes are on the way for Denver. I think that's just the situation they're in right now.
We've heard a lot of the kind of trade rumors coming out of there. We'll get to a name, maybe. I'll ask you about them coming up. Actually, let's hit this other game first. Let's go with the Lakers beating the Sacramento Kings 113-100. Notable stat in this one, LeBron James is the all-time leader in regular season minutes played in this one. They also killed the Kings on the offensive glass, getting a ton of second chance points to bury it in this one here.
Yeah, look, Anthony Davis has not traditionally played well versus Sabonis. They had a graphic from the Kings side that they shared prior to this last 4 meetings. Sabonis had washed him. And then AD came out, played well, 21 and 18 today. And then Sabonis with an 18, 12, and 9 performance. And all of the Sacramento starters were in the double-digit minus today. So,
yeah, you're not going to win if that's the case. Yeah.
No, they dominated. The Lakers get a good win. I think that is good for their morale, and see if they can continue to carry this forward.
Yeah, look, LeBron looked good in this game too, I thought, at least for the most part overall, which I think alleviates some of like the big concerns of like his father time actually like remained undefeated. It's like
Austin
maybe
too,
not,
by the way.
Yeah, maybe not just yet here. So let's jump to the Chicago Bulls surprising the Boston Celtics here. Let's kick it over to John Corrales with what happened in this one.
Boston Celtics got a taste of their own medicine. The Chicago Bulls hit 19 of 52 from three. The Celtics were 14 of 56. You don't see the Celtics get outscored by 15 points at the three-point line very often. But the Bulls came in here. We knew that they were a big three-point shooting team, that they love to shoot those. So both teams putting up 50 is not a surprise. The Celtics just couldn't get anything going. Jaylen Brown had an off night. Not surprising for Jaylen. You know, he had someone breaking into his house, into his mother's house, and so his mind has been occupied. So I was afraid that he might have a kind of a distracted performance, and I don't want to make excuses for him, but I think his mind might have been elsewhere on this one. But in the fourth quarter, beginning of the fourth quarter, I think the big story was the Celtics lost their composure. It's the first time this season that I've seen the Celtics let their frustrations get the best of them. The cold shooting, frustrations with the officiating led to a few techs on a jump ball, and then Jason Tatum quickly after that. They stopped playing defense. They allowed a lot of layups. So frustrating night for the Celtics. It boiled over into a poor defensive performance after cold shooting. Like I said, you don't see these often from the Celtics, so hopefully this is the last one we see from them for a while.
Yeah, Chicago Bulls shot 19 of 52 from three, whereas the Celtics were 14 of 56. Still a ton of three-point shots there, but man, Zach LaVine was awesome in this one. 36 points from him. Vucevic also had 16 and 14. Zach LaVine an option potentially for the Nuggets?
Yeah, well, I think that saying that they just didn't play defense is probably a little underselling the fact that Zach was walking by Jaylen Brown and Derek White all game. And then every time they would get penetration, they would kick out the wide open threes because they were over rotating. And then Vooch was giving them problems as well. So like there were several things. The thing is the Celtics, you stretch them out, then and you shoot your threes and you make them. Of course, you can be enough. That's what the Celtics do to everybody else. But the Chicago Bulls have a very unique personnel, and they made it happen. But yeah, Zach LaVine is obviously an option. You know, I just think that the public and I think the NBA, because of his contract, everybody is wildly too low on Zach LaVine. He is a very good player when he's healthy.
Yeah, he can kind of do it all for them too, I think. And I think you'll see him get moved. And now that the salary cap's going up and we're seeing some of these new contracts, his contract, which a couple of years ago was like, that dude's getting how much? And now you're like, no, that's like a totally normal, like the mid 40s for a dude like him. That's a totally normal number at this point in time. And so I think it's nice to see people kind of come back around on Zach LaVine in a positive way a little bit. So 5 more games to get through here coming up next on Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to take on all the NFL and NBA action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL and NBA all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, those lines are always updating. You know how the second half is going to go. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And all you have to do is just visit FanDuel.com to join today. And you're going to get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Swipa, let's fly through some things here. Let's go with the Rockets beating the Pelicans 133-113. You don't need to play a clip because I'm here, but yeah, New Orleans remains bad, and Houston shot the lights out. When you don't play defense on someone, a bad offensive team and a bad three-point shooting team can do it, and that's what happened in this one. No surprise for the New Orleans struggling. They do look like a team that has completely given up, though, in my opinion. Let's move on to the Clippers beating the Dallas Mavericks 118-95. Let's kick it over to Nick Angstad here to give us the Mavericks perspective.
No Kyrie, the Dallas Mavericks fall to the Los Angeles Clippers, and this one, not really a surprise. The Mavs did put up a really good fight in this one. Their defense held up for most of the game, and in the third quarter, it fell apart. Their offense stalled in the second and fourth quarter. Couldn't really get a lot going because don't have an MVP candidate and another all-star on their team. Yeah, they're not going to get a lot of offense going. But the role players did show up in big ways. You saw Klay Thompson, Spencer Dinwiddie creating some offense. It's something that they can show when Luka and Kyrie are back. They can play off of them, and that's something that we've seen this season that's been good. The really disappointing part for the Mavericks was Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford. Those two guys really struggled. Lively specifically made some uncharacteristic mistakes. He also struggled against Zubats one-on-one a couple of times, fouled him, and had some issues there. And so that was a struggle for the Mavericks. You're not going to win a lot of games when you get outscored by 21 on the three-point line either. And so for this one with the Mavericks, a struggle all around because you don't have your two-star players. But we saw some all right things, I guess.
It's got like a good perspective on there, knowing if you're missing your top two guys. Norm Powell, man, has been good this season. 29 points for him, leading scorer for the Los Angeles Clippers.
Yeah, Norm's been great. I think Zubac, if the West wasn't the West, he could be an all-star this year. If this was like 2015, he's been that good. James Harden was also very good this game. Again, they have like a very competent roster. Chris Dunn and Derrick Jones Jr. starting. They're a nightmare to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So they just came out, and the game was close. Like, and matter of fact, the Mavs were winning in the first half for a bit, and I was like, oh man, is this going to be like a dogfight all game? And then eventually they just took over the third quarter.
Yeah, look, when you're just going to run out of offense when like your two main guys are just got like, there's just very few teams can do it. Like, credit to them for staying as competitive as they did for that period of time here. Let's move on to the Nets beating the Toronto Raptors 101-94 here. Scotty Barnes comes back. You also had a pretty good game from Grady Dick as well, but really Cam Johnson for the Nets, 33, 10, and 6. This is like the guys upping their trade value podcast after the Bulls, and this one from Cam Johnson here.
Yeah, again, the Nets without Cam Thomas still. Dennis Schroeder's gone. Somebody got to step up, and then Cam Johnson said, come get me. Set me free.
Yeah, it's literally what he said here. He's like, get me out of here, put me on a contender, let me show you what I can do. He was great in this one. Grady Dick, 19 points, 6 rebounds, 2 assists. Sean Woodley, host of Locked On Raptors, told me to specifically mention his stat line in this one. So there we go. Chai Baji, too, 20 points coming in there. They've got some decent young talent, I think, in Toronto as they kind of like figure it all out, I guess.
Yeah, Emmanuel Quickly, Ochai, I think RJ Barrett, obviously, Grady Dick. I mean, they got really Scotty Barnes, obviously. They have a lot of really good young players on the roster, so we'll see how they continue to use them.
Yeah, look, it's not a bad year to be bad if you're them too, to add a pretty significant piece in the upcoming draft here when it comes to it. Utah Jazz beat the Detroit Pistons 126-119. They raced out to a big early lead, 30 points for Colin Sexton, 28 for Keontae George, who threw down a couple of dunks in this one here. Cade Cunningham did some stuff, and no one else did anything, it felt like, for the Pistons in this one.
Yeah, for sure. But shout out Keontae George, Baylor graduate. I think he's going to be an all-star. I called it his rookie year. He's a really good young guard with a lot of offensive upside. I'm really excited to see how they continue to use him in Utah.
7 of 13. When you could shoot like that, man, that's going to take you far, far, it seems like here. And you could see the makings of like what their team is supposed to be, I think, for Utah. And in a year, you wonder if they're going to kind of take that like semi leap or even bigger leap. And it feels like they're a team that'll be kind of primed for that, I think, in the near future here. So one more game as we try and get through everything in today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night. The Washington Wizards beating the Charlotte Hornets 123-114. This is maybe my favorite short that we've got on the night from our Locked On Wizards here.
The Washington Wizards get their 4th win of the season, defeating the Charlotte Hornets 123-114. How did the Wiz Kids get their 4th much needed victory of the season? Well, easy. They were led by 27 points by Jordan Poole, who shot an efficient 7 for 15 from the field and 5 for 10 from 3. But it was not just the starting 5 who shined tonight, because Alex Sarr did drop 19 points and 9 rebounds, but it was a second unit. Malcolm Brogdon, coming back from injury, scored 25 points and 6 assists. And Corey Kispert, the young sharpshooter, also coming back from injury, contributed 13 points on 5 for 8 from field and 3 from 5 from 3. So the Washington Wizards still have a long road to go down. And if you're a fan that wants them to win games, well, you check that box tonight. If you're a fan that wants them to still be in the running for a top 5 pick, they're definitely still in the running for that. So it was a win-win night for the Washington Wizards. All right, everybody, hail to the Wizards, and peace, everybody, next time.
So I love that, right? Like, yeah, we won and we don't want to win, but that was fun. So let's take it. And yeah, we're still going to be bad. So we're still going to probably end up with a top 5 pick here.
Look, I gotta say, to cover the Wizards every day, you're in the grind. You're in the grind every single day. So I mean, shout out to them. They got another win this year. I actually think they got a couple nice Bilal, Alexander Sarr. They got stuff to look forward to.
Yeah, they've got, there's some young talent there. Jordan Poole, 27, they'll be able to move him in the future. Malcolm Brogdon's a guy that's been traded, always ends up finding a home. They'll be able to kind of do that like younger push of young guys a little bit later in the season here, it feels like. For the Charlotte Hornets, though, you had LaMelo Ball with 34 points, 13 assists, 4 rebounds, 4 steals. He's been not shooting particularly well. He's 3 of 18 from deep, by the way. But overall, I think he's had a pretty good season.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think so.
Yeah. All right, there we go. We did this in about 30 minutes, man, which I think is pretty impressive for 13 games, 26 of the 30 teams here playing in the association. We got it covered here on Locked On NBA Game Night, every game, every night, 7 days a week. He's Swipa of Locked On Nuggets. I'm Jake Madison of Locked On Pelicans. We appreciate y'all so much for tuning in. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Make your favorite team show your second listen today, whether that's Locked On Nuggets, Locked On Pelicans, or any of our Locked On shows. We'll see y'all next time.